Good afternoon, New York City. I'm Jesus Garcia. Thanks for tuning in to Channel 6 tonight. We have a special show for everyone tonight as we have exclusive interviews with Mr. Dill and Mr. Smith, two of our top investors today. But before we hear from them, let's hear from Joe Johnson, our weatherman.
Thanks, Jesus. Today it's cloudy outside with the chance of raining money, apparently.
It's absolutely right. It is raining outside, but it might as well be raining money with how easy it is to make money investing. One of our interviews today have made so much money they actually quit their day job, but we'll get to that after sports.
Thank you, Jesus. Today was sports. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not really sure what happened. I normally watch the 6 o'clock news, but we got pushed up today. Back to you, Jesus.
Thanks, Joe. That's all right. It's the middle of March. Nothing's going on in sports. So let's get to the interviews now.
I saw a girl with the biggest.
Sorry about that. Today we have two very special guests, Mr. Doe and Mr. Smith. Now I have to ask, isn't it true that you quit your day job as a janitor to become a trader, Mr. Doe?
Oh, me? Yeah. Call me Dill.
Wow, good stuff. I can only see this ending well for you. Today, there are a lot of traders that were looking rather bearish on the markets. What are your thoughts?
Well, yes, that is correct. The markets, in my opinion, are becoming overheated, and we are due for a retrace soon here. Personally, I employ my position, and I think...
I thought this was a .com interview, but we can talk bears today. They are my favorite animal after all. Polar bears, more specifically.
Okay. So over the past year, the markets have had some insane returns. NASDAQ is up almost 400% since 1995, but there is talk of increasing interest rates from Federal Reserve Chair Alan Greenspan. What has worked for you in the year past, and what do either of you think of this and the effects it has on it will have on the markets?
Personally, I've been pretty skeptical over the past year or so, as some companies are seeing negative returns due to an increase in marketing and a decrease in sales, but then their stock goes up anyway. But for the most part, people have been bullish, and I've been taking advantage of that and recently started selling off large portions of my position this past year. But moving forward and looking at what is to come, in my opinion, is a sell-off.
I'm going to stop you right there. Go big, fast, get big fast, go get large, get large, get fast, get lost, I look at these charts, the line, it's just going up. It just keeps going up. And anything that just goes up, that's got to mean something good. So any stock that has .com in that thing's making me money.
So we have one investor who's bearish on the markets and another investor who likes polar bears who is bullish.
I've got a funny story about bulls too.
No, we're not talking about bulls. We're talking about the way people see the market. Have you read or heard anything about investing before quitting your janitor job? Maybe investing for dummies, a college course, anything?
I learned what bank I had a savings account with, and how do I put this money in a .com company. Next thing you know, I made more money this week than I ever have before, and so I quit my day job.
Wow. Well, it has worked out for you well since you have been constantly beating the market. Would you ever consider going to college to learn more about investing? I assume you haven't been to college yet. Maybe get your GED first?
I dropped out of high school, but no college or educations are a waste of money. Mr. Smith here, he's talking about selling off where the charts, they only show up. More money for me, I could buy all the .com companies I want.
You should do that. I'll tell you what, why don't you do that, and if you're still making more than me in 2 years, I'll be your janitor.
Well, that's all the time we have for you two today. But I would love to interview you both in 2 years and see how that works out, and see if Mr. Smith lives up to his word. For now, back to you, Jesus, in the studio.
So can I get back to my story with the girl with the huge...
2,000 years later.
Good afternoon, New York City. I'm Jesus Garcia. Thanks for tuning in to Channel 6 News tonight. We have a special show for everyone tonight as we have an exclusive follow-up interview of both Dildo and Mr. Smith. Just 2 short years later, I wonder what these guys will be doing now. As you may recall, Dill was a former janitor who quit his day job to become a trader, and Mr. Smith was a private investor. But before we hear from them, let's take a look at the weather with Joe Johnson.
Thank you, Jesus. Today's weather could have been really bad. It was almost raining babies today, thanks to Michael Jackson. But you know what? It turned out to be a pretty nice day.
Good thing that didn't happen. Crisis averted. You know, I'd hate to lose America's treasure to that. It wasn't even a cute baby, honestly. But let's hear from Lights Out Lars on our follow-up interview.
Thanks, Jesus. Today we have three very special guests today. We have Mr. Smith, Dill, and our former interviewer, Noah Dyke. Today we're going to look how the past 2 years have been for these three investors, and if Mr. Dill is now Mr. Smith's new janitor. Spoiler alert, he is not, if you couldn't tell. So tell me, how have these last 2 years been? What happened? What went wrong or right for each of you?
You're absolutely right, I'm not Dill's janitor, but these last 2 years have been great for me. I know last time that we spoke, I said that I was selling off a large portion of my position and that it panned out for me very well. As I'm sure most people know, the markets peaked on March 10th in 2000, only a couple days after our previous interview, and has only been going down since. By mid-April, the NASDAQ was down and falling as high as 9%, and some days having even the worst week in April, losing 25%. Needless to say, I got out of the dot-com companies and NASDAQ just in time, considering the yield curves inverted not 2 weeks after when the Feds raised the rates and dried up all the cash in dot-com companies.
Great. What about you, Dill and Noah?
Well, the charts lied to me. I thought they were going to keep going up. But one point in November, my Pets.com stock lost 75% of its value. And it's been a rough 2 years for me. The NASDAQ, it dropped from like 5,000 to like 1,000, and I had all my money in that NASDAQ. And no job lined up, and that was my plan in my retirement.
Yeah, so as many of you know, after talking to Dill, I was just so inspired. I quit my day job, as you saw, and put all my money in the NASDAQ with Dill. It flopped, and now I have nothing.
That's crazy. Believe it or not, we actually have footage of you quitting, and I want to roll that back if that's all right.
You know what? I quit. I'm gonna quit and invest all my money in the NASDAQ. Ah! Fuck all y'all.
You have any comments on that? How was your mansion and your yacht?
Dude, I'm gonna have all that really soon. I'm saving up some money right now, living in my mom's basement. That rent is cheap. I've got a lot of coals on the fire right now. Just wait for 2 years.
Oh, great. That's great to hear. I would love to hear all about it. I'm sure they are quite comical. But after this interview. But moving forward, a lot has happened with the markets these last 2 years. Companies like Microsoft are being found guilty of having monopolies and dropping 15% in a week. Pets.com lost 75% of their value, which is roughly $1.755 trillion. Then on top of that, we now have the SEC cracking down on companies who over the past 2 years have had some questionable accounting practices, giving some further downward pressure on the NASDAQ. So I guess my question is, do you think that these tech companies can come back from this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Looking at all this information that keeps coming out about all these tech companies, they're just going to make it that much harder for many of them to win back investors' confidence. That being said, a lot of these blue chip tech companies are going to have a rough couple of years moving forward, but will make a comeback, but maybe never to the price that they were at the peak. I would not be surprised to see some of these companies maybe even merge or get bought out in the next few years.
NASDAQ is dead to me. Bunch of scammers. They're all gonna fail.
Well, that's about all the time we have for you today. But there you have it, following up with both sides.
It was great to hear from both sides and the outcome 2 years later. Thanks for watching Channel News 6. See you stay classy, New York. I'm Jesus Garcia.